Assalamualaikum class 7th. I hope you all are fine. Let's have a quick recap of our previous chapter. I make a house. In this chapter, we saw that Robinson started to explore the island to find a place in which he could live in. He got many useful things out of the wrecked ship which he thought would be useful for him for his survival. Crusoe found a little cave and made a fort around that cave where he could live and sleep safely, and his food and stores would also be safe there. After that, let's see, after making his home, what's coming next for him, how he is going to survive. Third chapter is I prepare for a long stay. Goats. It took many days before all this was done the way I wanted. I must now go back to tell you about some other things which happened at that time. One day, when I had made these plans for setting up my tent and making my cave, there was a rainstorm. There was a flash of lightning, and after that, a great roll of thunder. A sudden, frightening thought entered my mind: my gunpowder. If the lightning struck it, all my powder would be destroyed, and I would not be able to use my guns to defend myself. After the storm was over, I immediately stopped all my work of digging and building and made a lot of small bags and boxes. I used these to store the powder in small, separate quantities. In this way, I hoped that whatever might happen, the powder would not all catch fire at once. I finished the work in about 2 weeks, and all the powder, which was nearly 240 pounds, was divided into 100 lots. The barrel of wet powder was not dangerous, so I put that in my new cave, which I called my kitchen. The rest I hid in holes among the rocks, so that it would keep quite dry, marking very carefully where I had placed it. While this was being done, I went out at least once every day with my gun to see if I could kill anything for food. The first time I went out to do this, I discovered that there were goats on the island. I was very pleased, but the goats could run so fast that it was difficult to get anywhere near them. I did not give up, for I was sure that I might be able to shoot one now and then. This happened soon afterwards, when I had learnt more about where they liked to go most often. I noticed that if I was walking below them in the valleys, even though they were up on the rocks, they would run away from me in fright. But if they were feeding in the valleys and I was on the rocks above them, their heads were down and they could not see me. So I always climbed the rocks first to get above them, and then I had a good chance to shoot. The first time I fired at them, I killed a she goat which had a little kid at her side. I felt quite sorry about this. When the goat fell, the kid stood still beside her until I came and picked her up. When I carried the she goat away with me on my shoulders, the kid followed me all the way back. I laid the goat down, took the kid in my arms, and carried it over the fence into the enclosure, hoping it would grow up and become tame. But it would not eat, So I was forced to kill it and eat it. These two supplied me with meat for a long time, for I did not eat a lot. I saved my other food, especially my biscuits, as much as I could. A calendar. After I had been there about 10 or 12 days, I realized that I should soon lose count of time and should not even know the difference between Sundays and weekdays. To prevent this, I cut on a large post in capital letters the words I came upon shore here on 30th September 1659. I made this post into a cross and set it up on the shore where I first landed. Every day I cut a notch with my knife on the side of the post, and every seventh notch was twice as long as the rest. Every first day of the month I cut a notch four times as long. In this way I kept my calendar. Among the things which I brought out of the ship on my several visits were many things of little value but still very useful to me, which I have not yet mentioned. Among these were pens, ink, and paper, several parcels which had belonged to the captain and other members of the crew, compasses, some charts, and books on sailing, all of which I piled up and kept, whether I might want them or not. And I must not forget that we had in the ship a dog and two cats. I carried both the cats to land, and the dog jumped out of the ship and swam to shore the day after I brought in my first cargo. He was a good friend, but how I wish that he could talk. Improving my house, a big task. Although I had brought so many things from the ship, there were many other things that I still needed. I wanted a spade to dig or remove earth with, and I needed needles, pins, and thread to mend my clothes. Without these tools, my work went very slowly, and it was almost a year before I had completely finished my fence, enclosure, and house. The posts, which were almost as heavy as I could lift, took a long time to cut, and still longer to bring home. I sometimes spent 2 days cutting and bringing home one of these posts, and a third day driving it into the ground. I have already described my house in the previous chapter, which was a tent under the steep side of a rocky hill, surrounded with a strong fence made of posts and metal strips. It would be better to call the fence a wall, for I built it up with earth about 2 feet thick on the outside. Later on, I placed long poles from this wall to the rock to make a kind of roof. I covered the poles with branches of trees and dry grass so that the rain might be kept out. It rained very hard at certain times of the year, as that place was wide open, so it was necessary to be protected from the rain. When I found that I was not in much danger from wild animals, I began to make my cave bigger. I dug deeper into the hillside, for it was loose, sandy rock and was easy to move. I worked sideways to the right into the rock and then, turning right again, made a way out of the rock on the far side of the fence of my fence. This gave me a sort of back door to my tent and also more room for storing all my things. And now I began to make things that I needed, particularly a chair and a table. Writing and eating would be far more comfortable when I had made these. So I went to work. It was not easy, for I had never done this kind of work before and I had few tools, but in time I managed to make everything I wanted. I made a table and chair out of the short boards that I had brought from the ship. I cut down trees and made large boards which I put up as shelves inside my cave. On these, I placed my tools, nails, and other things to keep them tidy. I knocked more boards into the wall of rock on which to hang my guns. Now my cave looked like a general store, and I was pleased to see that I had so many things to help me stay alive. Light at night, a big issue. All this time I worked hard, though the rain stopped me for many days, sometimes weeks at a time. But I thought I should never be perfectly safe until the wall was finished. When it was completed and I had strengthened the outside with earth, I felt sure that if any people did come near, they would not be able to see anything like a house. And that was a very good thing, as will be seen later on in my story. During this time, I went out to look for food every day when the rain stopped. One day, a kind of pigeon flew into a tree close to where I was standing. I killed it with a shot from my gun and took it home to cook. It was very good to eat. One thing I needed was a light. As soon as it grew dark, at about 7 o'clock, near 7 o'clock, I had to go to bed. So I tried hard to make some candles. When I killed a goat, I saved the fat. I made a dish out of clay and baked it in the sun. Then, using a piece of string as a candle wick, I made a small candle. This gave me a light, though not a clear, steady light like a proper candle. Food from heaven. One day, while I was searching among my things, I found a little bag which had been filled with barley grain for feeding the hens. I saw nothing in the bag but dust and some small pieces of barley husk. I wanted the bag for something else, so I shook out the husks on the ground under the rock in a corner of my enclosure. It was just before the great rains that I threw these husks away. Seems like after he threw it, rain came, and I forgot all about them. About a month after, I saw something green shooting up out of the ground. I thought this might be a plant I had not seen before, but I was very surprised when, after a little longer, I saw about 10 or 12 ears come out. They were ears of perfect green barley of the same kind as our European barley. Until this time, I had not thought about religion at all. I had believed that everything that had happened to me had happened by chance. But when I saw barley growing there in a climate in which I knew barley did not usually grow, and especially as I did not know how the barley had come there, it worried me strangely. I began to wonder whether God had caused this grain to grow without seeds being sown to provide me with food on that wild and unpleasant island. To provide me with food on that wild and unpleasant island. I was so happy that I felt like crying. I thought how lucky I was that such a miracle of nature should have happened for me. I felt certain that the barley was growing there just for me and that it had been sent by God. I felt certain too that there was more, and I went over that part of the island looking everywhere, but I found none. At last, I remembered that I had shaken out a bag of chicken food in that place. Then my wonder grew less, and I realized that it was not God who had caused the grain to grow there. I saved the ears of this barley when they were ripe, which was about the end of June. I carefully kept every year so that I could sow barley again, hoping that in time I might have enough to make a bread. But it was not until the fourth year that I let myself use even a small quantity to eat. After 4 years, even after 4 years, he wasn't able to collect that much barley, which will be enough for making a bread. So, what you people have to do now is make sentences of